morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Hello.
Morning, Jay.
How you doing, John?
Good, good.
John, before we start the meeting, I saw Johnny on that John Bafar's documentary on the hurricane, and he did a great job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that was fun. That was a good showing at the film festival there.
It was.
Yeah. You were great. Hey, John did a good job. Yeah.
I thought so too. I talked with him yesterday. They're showing it at Babcock Ranch this Friday. So
Yeah.
I'm joining some friends out there and said on Friday.
Oh, good. I'm gonna try and make it, so I'll probably see you out there.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that'll be good. Johnny went back to Boston, but he's flying back, I think, Thursday. And we'll come out there. Yeah, that'll be good.
For those of you who don't know, John Bafar, he does a lot of documentaries, and he's done some for Uncommon Friends and lots of different, and he did this one about hurricane recovery, and he kind of wove 4 stories into one story, but it's some of the video from the hurricane was very compelling, and it had a nice hidden message about protecting our environment and everything. It was very well done, and he won the film festival with it.
Yeah. I don't know if you're able to see it anywhere quite yet. So unless you go to Babcock Ranch Friday.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that something we could get the Historical Society to show, or?
I bet you could, if we reached out to, he's trying to sell it to PBS right now, so he's very careful about, but he might very well be able to do that. I'm not gonna say no, because I'm not the one that makes that decision, but I can always ask him.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Well,
I'm seeing him tonight. I'll ask him.
Oh, that's a good one, John.
I'll let you know. Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess it's 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock?
8 o'clock it is. So I'm
Right.
Jay Brown. I'd like to welcome everybody to the June 11th meeting of the Captiva Community Panel. We'll start off with the roll call. David Mintz.
I am here, thank you, and it's 9 o'clock, not 8 o'clock.
Well, it's 8 o'clock where I am. Shoot.
Oh.
But thanks for pointing that out. Sandy Stillwell is here, and Brady.
Here. Morning.
And Linda Laird, I already saw Linda.
Yeah.
Ken Gill, I don't think was going to be able to be here today. I don't see Ken. And I think Bruce McDonald was also going to miss because he was planning on being in Africa.
Good for him.
Now, Margaret Maville, Smythe Maville. Margaret, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Okay, hi, Margaret.
Hi, Jay.
John Jensen.
Yep. Good morning, Jay.
Tony Lappy.
I'm on the phone, Jay.
Yeah, you told me you were going to be on the phone. Thanks, Tony. And Ken Suarez.
Here.
Hi, Ken.
Morning.
First order of business is to approve the minutes from the last 2 meetings. I guess we skipped over approval of the prior month's meetings last month. So can I have a motion to approve both these sets of meetings?
I'll make a motion, Jay.
How about a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion about the minutes? All in favor of approving them, raise your hand, say aye.
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 Okay, we're going to start off with an update from the sheriff office. Rich Zaltman has informed me that he's going to be out of town today. So our deputy, I think Chris Lusk, is going to make the report for the sheriff's department. Chris, are you around?
I am. Good morning, everybody. How are we today?
Good.
Wet, yes. So it looks like we all made it through another Memorial Day weekend, relatively unscathed. Very busy. I'm sure our business owners experienced that full weight of that crowd that we received, hopefully in a positive way. But as far as any major events occurring on the island or anything of substantial note, it went relatively smooth. We did bring out some extra help. We kept one of us on the boat the entire between 8:30 in the morning and 8:30 at night, and just circling the island, keeping our channel, watching for manatee zone violations and make sure people were staying off everybody's private docks and everything. But as far as the holiday weekend goes, I mean, nothing outstanding happened that is really all that noteworthy. It was just a matter of just keeping the crowds moving and keeping them from congregating where we don't want them congregating. So that was a good weekend. And again, all month we really didn't have anything too notable happen on the island. I mean, we're in that part of the season where we're seeing the ups and downs based on the events of the weekends that are going on. So our weekends are staying pretty busy. So it's just the same kind of thing that we always remind everybody, just make sure that we're securing all of our personal properties. If you rent your home and you have items that you don't want your renters using, make sure that those items are secured. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we've put a camera up at the Blind Pass Bridge. That's going to be there for a couple of weeks. Nothing.
What's the purpose of the camera at the bridge? That's interesting.
Well, it's we noticed during the hurricane that it was a major deterrent for us. The camera is very visible. It's viewable from us, from our phones or from our laptops. It records, it reads license plates. But we've been noticing on the weekends, especially very late at night, that the bridge it's very, very busy with fishermen, like people driving out fishing on that bridge anywhere between 10 o'clock at night and 2 o'clock in the morning. I think once I counted about 84 people on the bridge fishing. And FWC's really been helping us out. They've been coming out on the weekends at night. And they've actually affected, we spoke to them. They've affected quite a few arrests out there for fishing violations.
Okay, right.
So like I said, the camera is just a really good deterrent for us. We can monitor it. Like if we get called to another island and we just want to monitor the bridge and see how things are going, we can pull it up and stream it live to our cameras, so we can make sure that we're dividing our time and where it's needed. So we're just not just driving back and forth for no reason. So, but it seems to be pretty effective. I mean, I've already talked to a couple of our normal fishing folks that come out on the weekends, stuff like that, from Lehigh and some of the other parts of town. And it's definitely something that's been noticed, and they know they're being watched and know it's being recorded. So it's not going to be there forever. It's just, we're just using it right now during these couple of weeks when we know we get that influx. And
I'm wondering if it ought to be up there forever. Before your time here, we spent considerable effort trying to get fishing either eliminated from the bridge entirely or limited to only one side of the bridge, because of, constant littering. And we know they're catching a lot of undersized, snook off that bridge.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that's happening. And like I said, we spoke to FWC. So 2 Saturdays ago, he told me he made 11 arrests. And when I say arrest, he wrote them notice to appear forms for them to appear in court at a later date. And that was just on one Saturday night that he did that. So, which is pretty considerable. It's a notable amount of charges to be handed out on a single night. But there's a new group of those guys here in town, and they are very aware of how busy our bridge is. And they've been doing a really good job and coming out, like I said, late at night and really helping us out with, monitoring that, enforcing those rules and regulations for us. So I'm hoping that over the next few weeks, we're going to see a very drastic improvement of how the bridge is being taken care of there by our visitors. So I know I've already seen, since that camera's been up, I've already seen a little bit of a difference in the amount of trash left behind. That's something that it's a daily ebb and flow kind of thing. It's one day it's better, one day it's not, but it is something that we've been keeping track of. So hopefully we continue to see that. I don't know what the process would be. I don't know with the agreement with Sanibel kind of running that parking lot. I don't know what the process would be for us getting a permanent or a fixed camera in. I mean, that's definitely something that I can ask about. And I'll make a note that that Rich and I maybe kind of approach that. But yeah, that's
Yeah, well, I would appreciate you investigating that possibility further, unless somebody on the panel is saying some downside to doing that I'm not.
no, I mean the cameras, cameras are always a helpful tool. I know South Seas, they installed 2 cameras on the road there. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed them, the black boxes with the solar panels. Those are tag reader devices. And we've already used those during the holiday weekend. It reads the tags of all the cars going up and down Captiva Drive there in front of Chadwick Square. And we've already had to use them, and it works very, very well. And it's a really great tool for us. We can solve things extremely quickly. So yeah, it's definitely something that I will make a note of. And as soon as Rich gets back in town this weekend, we will sit down and have a discussion about it, figure out who we need to talk to about it. The only other change that you're going to see is we're going to put up a couple of temporary roadside no parking signs just for the upcoming holiday week of 4th of July. We're going to start a little early, start some training for our day trippers. We want to stop the roadside parking. There's a couple of spots in front of people's private beach accesses in their homes. And then again, up at Turner Beach to prevent the cars from backing up into the road and blocking the traffic coming and going from the island as they wait for a parking spot. So there's just a couple of pullover spots that have been created by the constant vehicle traffic that we're going to get those blocked off just through the holiday week. And then those will go back to DOT. So it's not going to be a permanent fixture, but we are going to try to keep people moving and stop them from pulling up onto the dunes and messing up people's little roadside
Right.
landscaping there.
Okay, well, Chris, thanks for that report. Does anybody have anything for Chris?
Yeah, Chris, curious with the parking, how you putting up signs and whatnot. Besides ticketing the individuals, how else do you enforce violators?
So yeah, so obviously the citations are our number one tool that we use. The only other option that we have is to tow a vehicle away. Now for us to go to that length, we would have to illustrate or show that the vehicle parked and where it was causing a immediate risk to safety or it was blocking traffic and all those things, which most of the time it just doesn't really arise to that here. People, even when they do park on the side of the road, we're not typically in that much of an extreme. We do have tools that we have a system that when we run their tags, we can get all the phone numbers and everything associated with the license plate now with this database that we have. I know Christine, she uses it a lot. She's really good at it. She's really good at using it. But yeah, those are basically our 3 things that we do when it comes to a illegally parked vehicle on the side of the road.
How difficult is it to get a tow truck to come out if a vehicle is, let's just say it's there, it's affecting the right of way, it's affecting safety, whatnot. How difficult is it to get somebody to come out?
It's not difficult at all for us to get one. It's just the time. If the island garage is not available when we call, then we have to wait for somebody to come into town. I mean, the sheriff's office has contracts with tow truck companies, so they're required to respond to us. But typically in town, they're required to respond to us within a certain amount of time. That obviously is not possible out here. So they kind of get here when they can get here kind of scenario. So we find it's more effective for us to try to find the person. It's usually a faster process for us to find the person, ticket them and get them moving than it is to tow them. Because we might wait an hour plus for a tow truck. It might only take me 10 minutes to find the driver. But we will,
Right.
I mean, we will remove a vehicle if it has to be removed. Just hasn't really happened very often out here. But usually people are very, very accommodating when we let them know, hey, you can't do this. And usually they just move right along. So,
Okay, thanks.
yeah, no worries.
Okay, next up is Chief Jeff Powell. Chief notified me earlier that he was not going to be able to make our meeting today as he's at some sort of conference. He just asked me to report that nothing out of the unusual happened this last month. He said tax revenues are coming in slowly, and that was concerning him. So those were the comments he wanted me to make to the group.
Jay, Jay, can I just
Yeah.
add?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one other issue that occurred during the Memorial Day weekend, that people may remember. For the first time, the owner of the parking lot at the post office decided to hire a valet service and charge for parking, beach parking at the post office parking lot during the Memorial Day weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And he was undercharging at various times. The valet service was undercharging the rates that Haggerty Beach, the CEPD parking, was charging. And was also creating some serious problems at the post office. They were, number one, it became very difficult for people to go to the post office and find park so they can go to their post office box. It was difficult to go to the ATM because cars were lined up to get spots at this parking lot. And Carol, the woman, the postmaster, on Saturday, the truck, the federal post office truck that picks up the mail couldn't get into the parking lot to pick up the mail. And so therefore she had to rise to the occasion and take the mail herself to another post office in order to get it mailed out, because there was no way the truck could get into the park. Sergeant Zeltman was called in by the post office people, and I had been receiving a number of phone calls also. And I also spoke to the owner of the parking lot. And I explained to him what was going on with the post office and the unavailability of spots. And he was unaware of that. He was doing a test case to see how it would go if he did it the Memorial Day weekend. And then he would consider selling parking spaces during season after the summer. And I raised the concerns with him that, what was happening with the post office itself, and that they were actually selling spots where there are signs that said only post office parking. Anyway, Sergeant Zeltman got on it right away. He went down there. To make a long story short, he worked with the code enforcement officer at Lee County, and also became aware of the code provision that applies to Captiva that doesn't allow for any temporary parking lots on Captiva to be used. And so after the owner of the parking lot was aware of the problems and was aware of the code provision, and was aware of the violations that were being committed and the difficulties, according to the code enforcement officer who spoke to Sergeant Zeltman, a decision was made going forward that they would not use that, he would not use that parking lot for any paid parking in the future. So that was a problem that was resolved. Sergeant Zeltman and his team resolved it, and hopefully it doesn't arise again. But I know people were aware of it. There were a lot of calls about it. And so I want the people to know that I think it's a problem that has been solved.
Okay, I noticed that there are signs around all the postal parking spaces saying postal patrons only. Was he parking people in spaces that were signed that way at the time, or?
Yes.
No, okay,
I think that the owner of the parking lot was not aware of a lot of the details. I think he wasn't aware that you needed a permit to do this kind of thing. And he certainly wasn't aware of the code provision that prohibited temporary parking lots on Captiva. So, and taking all those things into consideration, not to mention that they were underselling the Hagerty Beach parking lot. So if it's Hagerty Beach was $40, they were selling spots at $25 or $35 or whatever prior to, the Hagerty Beach being filled up. And my understanding, I didn't see it, my understanding is that they were directing people into the post office parking lot and away from the Hagerty parking lot at the outset. So given all those problems, I think discretion was the better part of valor going forward. And I think that this problem won't arise again. So
okay,
here we go.
good. Well, thanks so much, David, for your actions on that. We appreciate it. Okay, next up, CEPD. Linda
Hi,
Laird.
everybody. Hi, everybody. So we had our meeting yesterday. This weekend, Aptum is going to come out to do physical monitoring of the island and the beaches to determine where it is right now in terms of using it to help design what we're going to be doing on a renourishment. The renourishment bids are due June 14th. This is the best and final. We need to wait to see what they are. We also need to see what the physical monitoring shows again. But right now, we believe it's likely next spring we will be doing a renourishment. And we expect it to be pretty much a full renourishment. The design of the project, it will be reviewed in a public meeting sometime in the next month or so. Okay, so you can see what's going to happen with the dunes and to take public comment. On funding, we believe we're up to 18 million from the 13X million. We're continuing to look for more. So we think we have over 60% of what we expect the funding required, that we've obtained it. Okay, that's all on the renourishment side. Any questions on that? No. Okay. On the Bayside renourishment, Aptum is continuing on with incorporating comments from the community. There's going to be another public meeting on June 27th, and they'll be presenting design concepts and talking to the community at that point in time. And that's the CEPD report.
Okay, and is there one particular person at CEPD that's in charge of this project or of the Bayside project?
You mean a commissioner?
No.
Renee.
Renee is, okay.
Any other questions?
Anybody have anything for Linda?
I just want to make sure I heard correctly. So you think there'll be a full beach renourishment prior to the next hurricane season?
Yes, we were thinking we could do a smaller one, but that isn't proving practical. So we believe it's going to be a full beach renourishment. There's some thought among the commissioners that we're going to have to be doing renourishments more frequently. So we have to really work on funding and how to be able to accomplish this.
But the one that the first full beach renourishment we're talking about will be prior to the next hurricane season.
It will be in the spring.
That's great. Okay, good.
Okay, Linda, thank you.
Yep.
Let's see. Next up, SCCF, Matt DePaulis. Matt.
Hey, everyone.
Hi, Matt.
Couple of things today for y'all. Last night we learned that the judge in the Chiquita Lock case has issued the environmental resource permit, so that allows the lock to be removed. So Not great news, but I think this is just the first step. There are already talks of challenging that in an appellate court. So this is going to be a long drawn out one.
Mac, could you just explain to the community what you're talking about here?
Yeah, sorry. So there is a lock system in Cape Coral that is the back end of the South Spreader system, which is a water quality feature that was put in the 80s to control some of the runoff that's coming out of the canals in Cape Coral. At this point, the lock has been broken open since Ian, and the city has filed a permit application to remove the lock, largely to improve quality of life for boating through there. And there has been some other concerns, but that lock is really important to the water filtration system that's sent up there. Basically, the lock serves as a barrier to stack water up behind it, which then allows spillover into the mangrove system, which filters the water before it is discharged or before it makes its way into Matlacha Pass. So the fear is that without that lock there, the system won't function, and now all of the polluted water from the Cape Coral canals will be flushing directly into the Caloosahatchee estuary. So this was a big setback for that case with that first decision. But as I said, there is an option to appeal that decision, which I believe the petitioners will be taking that opportunity. And then there are longer term solutions that we could be focusing on at a state or federal level, but that'll involve a lot of monitoring and it'll be down the road. So just basically saying that this issue isn't going to go away anytime soon. If anyone has any questions about that, I'm happy to further explain, but I assume you'll be hearing a lot about it. I've already been getting a lot of calls from reporters and stuff, so people are interested. Other than that, you may have noticed it's raining right now. We're expected to get a lot of water coming through the system over the next 5 days. Most of that is basin runoff, so we can expect to see a lot of water moving out of the Caloosahatchee River, but less than the amount we're seeing is actually hitting the lake. So that's some good news. We also, through those lake releases, have built a lot of resilience into the lake right now. We're at, yesterday before the rain started, we were at about 12.5. We were at 12.6 feet. So that leaves some room for us to hold water in the lake without risking those large releases that we're trying to avoid. So this is the resilience we're trying to build into the system. We're excited about that. And then LOSUM is supposed to come online in August. So when that's officially online, that'll build even more resilience into the lake system. So yeah, rainy season has begun.
Okay, anything else for SCCF? Well, Matt, thanks for that report.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Okay, I have an agenda item, IWA irrigation conservation. Is anybody here to speak to that?
Not that I'm aware of, Jay.
Jay, I can speak to it because
Go ahead, David. I know a little what the issue is also, but go ahead, please.
Diana Wilson contacted the panel and asked that we send out a notice to Captiva residents to notify them that they're starting to replace some of their infrastructure at their reverse osmosis facility that was damaged during Hurricane Ian. And because of that, they want to reduce some of the demands on water, and they in the process have want to remind Captiva that Lee County put in a schedule for irrigation on Captiva that people have to abide by. And a lot of people weren't aware of it because there wasn't a lot of publicity around it. But for Captiva, for irrigation, if your property ends with an even number, you're only permitted to irrigate on Thursday and Sundays. If your property ends with an odd number, you're only permitted to irrigate on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And the irrigation times for those days are between 12 a.m. and 9 AM, between midnight and 9 AM, or between 5 PM and midnight. No irrigation is allowed any day between 9 AM and 5 PM. So no irrigation between 9 AM and 5 PM. And if your house ends with an even number, only Thursday and Sunday. And if your house ends in an odd number, it's only Wednesday and Saturday that you may irrigate. And if you irrigate on a different day, Ken Suarez will go find it. I'm only kidding. But those are the rules, and I assume they'll be enforced by code enforcement, though, as we know, code enforcement doesn't come out to Captiva all that often.
Well, I did notice my landscaper put out a note to all of his customers advising them of this, so hopefully that'll be common practice amongst the landscapers.
Right.
Okay, next up, the South Seas issue. David, you want to give us an update?
Yeah, I can give you a quick update on what's happening. As everybody knows, the code amendments, which exempt South Seas from the height and density limitations that they had in the past and that apply to everybody else on Captiva, and the code amendments that allow higher building heights outside the gate of South Seas, have been challenged by the CCA and the Protect Captiva Coalition. And it has been now assigned to an administrative law judge, who we understand is very professional and highly respected. And the administrative law judge has asked the parties to collaborate to find dates that work for everybody in order to have a trial. And what we're looking at is the end of July, the beginning of August, where the administrative courts, administrative law judge will determine whether these code amendments are consistent with the LEED plan, which requires the county to enforce standards on Captiva that are consistent with the historic development pattern on Captiva. And it's our claim, as everybody knows, that the historic development pattern does not allow for greater building heights to the extent that they're being proposed, or for the increase in density, for example, the 2 additional hotels on South Seas that are being proposed. So that will be a full-blown trial. Our attorneys have already submitted discovery requests to the other side. And as something else I want to mention about this, in continuing its great support and solidarity with us, the city of Sanibel, the Sanibel City Council, voted unanimously to intervene on behalf of us, the CCA and Captiva, Protect Captiva, to protect the interests of us and to protect the interests of Sanibel residents in preventing increased development, increased traffic, and increased evacuation times that the amendments that we're challenging will most likely produce. So I just want to say that we're very grateful to Sanibel for their continuing support and their intervention in this case on our behalf. They will be represented by their city attorney, and that's a great addition to our legal team in this process. So that's number one. Number two, as everybody knows, there was a settlement agreement back in 2003 where the county and the developer and the CCA agreed that the limitation on buildings on hotels or condominiums on South Seas was limited to 912 units. And that 912 units was in effect since 1973 till right now. It's 50 years. And when there was an effort to exceed that 912 limits back in 2003, CCA sued the county, and they reached a settlement which was enforced and approved by the court. And the settlement basically said that the total number of dwelling units on South Seas Resort will be limited to 912, and no building permits, and I repeat, no building permits may be issued by the county for dwelling units within South Seas that will cause the number to be exceeded at any time. So the Protect Captiva Coalition and CCA have filed a complaint in circuit court seeking to enforce that 912 limit. The county has filed a motion to dismiss, basically claiming, among other things, they've had a whole bunch of defenses, but I would call the fundamental defense is that if that agreement is enforceable, it would mean that the County Board of County Commissioners exceeded their authority back in 2003 to make that agreement. We obviously do not believe the Board of County Commissioners exceeded their authority, because the settlement agreement just enforced a legitimate zoning approval from back in 1973, and the administrative interpretation which confirmed that, and just was enforcing that 912 unit cap. So in any case, the court has set a July 9th date for a hearing on that motion to dismiss. We are hopeful, and I think we believe that the motion to dismiss will be denied, and the court will then set further dates to resolve this dispute, and that the 912 unit cap will be enforced. So that's number 2. Number 3, South Seas, as you know, submitted a plan application, which they did twice because it was rejected by the county as being insufficient. And so they submitted a third revised plan application on May 28th. And in that third application, they are still requesting 435 additional hotel units, but they've reduced the number of condominiums they are requesting from 272 to 196. So their new application is seeking to increase density on South Seas to 1,271 units. And that's 1,271 rather than the cap of 912. And it's our position, of course, that that increase violates the zoning approval, the administrative interpretation, our settlement agreement, as well as the lead plan, which requires that historic development pattern on Captiva be maintained and enforced. So one of the things that the application does is because they're concerned about the requirement that all development on Captiva is consistent with the historic development pattern, they've gone out of their way in their application for the first time to claim that their request for the additional hotel rooms and the additional hotel rooms and the additional condos is consistent with the historic development pattern on Captiva. And the fact is, it isn't.
What's their argument what is there that's consistent about that plan, more consistent than their prior plan?
Nothing, in my opinion. In my opinion, there's nothing different, except this time they try to address it. The application attempts to address it directly by saying that the heights on Captiva outside the gate are the same height that they're proposing inside the gate. Now, what they're proposing inside the gate is 45 feet above base flood elevation as a minimum, up to 75 feet above base flood elevation is what the code amendments would allow. There's nothing I'm aware of on Captiva that's 45 feet above base flood elevation. As everybody knows, when you built that house on Captiva, it was 35 feet above grade or 42 feet above sea level, whichever was lesser. And then when FEMA came into play, we amended our Captiva code to go 28 feet above base flood elevation as an option. We have nothing that's 45 feet above base flood elevation that I'm aware of. And their claim is that there are buildings outside of South Seas that are greater than 45 or up to 45 feet above base flood elevation. And there aren't. The only building that exists that even comes close to that is the Sunset Captiva condominiums. And they were pre-code and they don't even reach that height. So I think that their argument is incorrect, Jay, and I don't think it's going to be persuasive to the county or to anybody else looking at it. In addition, They still have not gotten a letter of sufficiency from Island Water Association. Island Water Association has asked for the water usage at the water park that's being proposed. And they're also asking for how many bedrooms and in the condominiums, et cetera, so they can make a determination as to the needs of with potable water. And that hasn't happened. So what the South Seas has done is asked for a waiver on their obligation to provide a sufficiency letter from Island Water. And I don't believe that the county is going to give them a waiver on that also. So I think there's a good chance that this third revised plan application is going to be again rejected by the county as being insufficient, but we don't know, and it remains to be seen. We have submitted the CCA and the Protect Captiva Coalition has submitted a set of comments in response to this revised application, and those comments will be distributed on the web to everybody, to the CCA, to members, to the panel constituency, and to SCCF's constituency, and everybody else concerned with this issue. It'll be distributed out today. It just got sent to the county.
Your comments will be out?
Yes, they'll be out. They'll be out today.
Okay.
You see, they're comprehensive. They were done by the attorney for the CCA, and they are also going to be reviewed by the attorneys for the South Seas associations. And as in the past, we're confident that the South Seas Association will add their comments to our comments so that the county staff is fully aware of everybody's concerns prior to their obligation to issue a recommendation one way or the other down the pipe. So that's number 3. Number 4, we continue to review the public records request we made from the county. As you know, there are like 100,000 pages, but we've pretty much completed our review. And what we found is similar to what David Dorsey found in his article that he published. And what we're finding is that the characterization of the amendments that were passed were not county initiated at all.
That's obvious. That's just so obvious.
They were initiated by the developer, and we have a lot of evidence of that. We have an exchange of emails to that effect, and the attorneys are determining whether mislabeling of the amendments invalidates the process or the amendments themselves, and whether there's sufficient grounds for additional legal action on that. So that's a fourth thing that's going on. And fifth, I just want everybody to know that the Protect Captiva Legal Fund, which is supporting all of this legal work and only the legal work, is approaching the $600,000 mark in terms of contributions and this is something that is really quite wonderful, with over 900 separate contributions. 900 people have contributed, 900 contributions have been made to this fund. But there's a lot more work that needs to be done, so we're continuing to ask people if they have the financial ability to do so, to continue to make contributions to legal funds, which are tax deductible. Hey, Jay, that's my report. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Do you have any idea how they got 295 condominiums? How they might have derived that number? I mean, if they would have gone to say 145, which was the number of student housing or student or
They went from 272, which they were vested under the 912. In other words, they had the 912. Tennisville has got its number. Bayside Village got its number. All the various associations that they bought those properties and built got their share of the 912 units. The developer had 140 units for employee housing, 107 hotel units, and 25 unbuilt units, which equal 272. So arguably, they are vested under the 912 for 272 units. They have reduced that request to 196. So from 272, they're now saying they want only 196 condominiums. And but those 196 condominiums would be, I would argue, would be vested within the 912. The problem is they want 435 additional units.
Right.
Units on top of that. Where they got the 196 is a little bit confusing in their application. They are no longer, I don't think, claiming that they're vested. I think that they're recognizing that you can't seek rezoning and say you're vested at the same time. If you're going to rezone, you're going to rezone. You can't be vested under the old zoning and also rezone. So I think they're moving away from their vesting argument. And I think they're basically looking to, in terms of the condominiums, what they're looking to do is say that we're going to have 2.4, a density of 2.4 units on our 81 acres of upland acres. In other words, they're eliminating the wetlands. They're saying they have about 80 acres of upland buildable space, and they're going to have a density of 2.4, which is less than 3 for their upland acres. I think that's where they get their 196. And they're now claiming that the 435 hotel units are going to be on the 5 acres of commercial that existed under the old zoning. So they're still confusing the old and the new rezoning applications. But the 5 acres of commercial that were under the original zoning for South Seas was not for hotels. The hotels were part of the 912. The 5 acres of commercial zoning were for restaurants and various amenities. So their claim that they can put 435 hotels on 5 acres of commercial doesn't make any sense either. So I think they have a problem with a consistent theory on their application, Jay, and I think that's going to have to get sorted out by an administrative law judge as this thing, by an examiner, as this thing goes through the process.
So the game being played is to change the number of acres that they have available to be built and use the same ratio. Is that correct?
See, what happened is when there were 304 acres originally, and they did 3 units per acre to get you to 912, they included wetlands. And this is back in 1973. In today's world, wetlands aren't a basis for increasing your density. So they really don't have 304 acres on buildable space on South Seas anymore. They have closer to 178 acres. And if you multiply 178 by the maximum you can have in outlying suburban, this area, it's 3 times 178, which is like 500 and change. They already have 640 units on South Seas without anything from the new developer. So it's creating a big problem of what they're entitled to. And so what they're basically saying is we have 80 acres of our own that's upland of the 178, and we want a density of 2.4. But they would never get a density of 2.4 on a barrier island in today's world. So it's creating a big problem in terms of how you calculate what density they're entitled to. Our position is that if they don't take their vested units, which is the 272, 912, and we believe that that's what's been vested for 50 years. We're not looking to take that away. But if you're going to rezone this property, you already have more units on South Seas already than anybody in their right mind would approve on a barrier island. And so therefore, it's a real problem for them because they're probably not technically, in my view, entitled to anything more than the 640 units that are already there without their units. So if I were them, I would take the 912 and run to the bank with them. But that's not what they're doing at this point.
So if they wanted to be rezoned, you could make the argument that they should be building to the current zoning laws, just as they do to the current building laws.
Yeah, yes, the current zoning laws probably would not give you 3 units per acre on that property anymore. Certainly wouldn't take into account wetlands as buildable area. And also, the idea that you can build 2 hotels on South Seas on a barrier island at this point is a problem because the plan requires that it be consistent with the historic development pattern, which did not allow for that kind of density. So it's a real challenge for them at this point, I think. And we've been consistent, even though today you probably wouldn't get 912 units on South Seas. We believe when they bought that property that's what they were told was the cap, 912. There's, as everybody's seen, they did due diligence. The county provided them due diligence documents that said, you're capped at 912, you're entitled to 272 units. They knew that before they purchased it. And then they try to figure out a way with the county and with their agents and with their lawyers and with their planners to get more height and more density. And we think that's created this problem. And I think that's what we're trying to resolve in the most professional way we can.
If they were going with the current, what one would believe to be the current zoning laws, how many units would they be entitled to?
Well, see, there's a single PUD. It's a single property of 304 acres, right? So the question is, it was always viewed as a single plan unit development there, and you were allowed to cluster. When they rezoned that in 73, they allowed you to cluster houses that closer together, more dense, and you'd have more open space, right? So the question is, how do you calculate what you're entitled to? Do you just look at your land and do you use the density from the clustering, or do you look at the whole project and see what you're entitled to? If you look at
The clustering also includes private homes. That's the problem, right?
no,
True.
South Seas is private. It's just different ownership.
Well, that's what I mean. It's not when you're talking about okay, I've asked enough. We'll move along.
Okay. Yeah, you can call me anytime if you want more details. I don't want to bore the hell out of people.
Okay.
Any other questions besides Linda's?
No, I don't, anybody? Okay,
I have one more. It appears that when I read through the charge to the February, whatever initial charge to the county planners, what they said is they included a line in it about looking specifically at South Seas. Did I read that correctly? The original charge to the group.
Oh, in February of 2023?
Yeah, I read what Ken put out, and that I thought it said that, which I thought was new news, because we've always thought it was just a bland charge
No,
to do this. And in fact, there was this thing about South Seas in it.
in February 2023, Commissioner Ruane, at the Board of County Commissioners meeting, asked the staff to look at the code provisions and plan provisions in Lee County that prevented property owners from rebuilding after a hurricane, and how to make the rebuilding more resilient. And he said, including South Seas.
Yes, and so it was specifically mentioned South Seas in that charge.
And that
was my point, that I didn't think it was.
He did. And but he has adamantly said and has repeatedly said that he was not asking for increases in density. He was just looking for allowing code changes that would allow for greater resiliency when you build back. Had nothing to do with density. And what we're facing on Captiva is primarily an increase in density and intensity of use, which is set very different than resiliency, which Commissioner Ruane said is what he was looking for.
Thank you.
okay. David, you want to carry on?
Yeah, I'll just say that we're still waiting to see if the 25% discount for the FEMA flood insurance is still going to be applicable to Lee County. My understanding, the last I've heard, is they're working that through, and people are hopeful that the 25% discount will continue. And that's it. And the last thing is on the Sunset Captiva crosswalk. The county is sending people out to evaluate. I spoke to Tom Jensen about this, to evaluate the feasibility of putting a crosswalk between the condos and the single-family homes on a crosswalk on Captiva Drive between the two parts of Sunset Captiva. And they have assigned somebody to come out and do that evaluation. And as soon as they finish that evaluation, they'll have a report for the panel.
Is there any
Okay.
reason why we shouldn't get that crosswalk, or
On me,
is there any reason why we shouldn't get a crosswalk there? Or-
the only reasons would be traffic and feasibility. In other words, you have to have enough space before and after the crosswalk for cars to fit in and stop.
Mhm. Yeah,
So when they try to do a crosswalk between the antique store or the gift shop and the bubble room, there was not enough room behind it between the bubble room and NURC Lane to put a crosswalk in there because cars couldn't go through the stop sign and quickly stop because there's another crosswalk there and they couldn't fit in. So, and I think there was an issue that also arose with the Rauschenberg property when they wanted to put a crosswalk, and I don't remember how that was resolved. But it shouldn't be a problem with Sunset Captiva because there is space on both sides. So we're just waiting to hear.
All right, let me know, Dave, and I can meet with anybody. Thank you.
okay, next is wastewater committee.
This is not me, this is David.
What? Wastewater? No, this is Jay.
Oh, I got it backwards, sorry.
Yeah, wastewater is I think my project to
Yes.
report on. The significant thing that has happened over the past month is we have learned that there is a substantial public funding opportunity to pay for our central wastewater system for Captiva. So we are going to make an application to have HUD pay for the collection system that would gather the wastewater in Captiva. And then the cost of the new piping to transport our wastewater through Sanibel. And then Sanibel is going to make application to pay for the new deep injection well that will be required. I don't know much about the history of this type of funding. Kevin Ruane brought it to our attention and encouraged us to go for this. So we are doing that. It's Ken and Gooderham, David and I, and our engineer, Doug Ekman from Kimley Horn, will be working very hard on trying to get this funding request together over the next week or so, which is about how much time we have to get this funding request into Lee County. So that would be amazing if we could get, this paid for, because as I've reported in the past, I think the costs have grown, quite a bit versus what they were under our original thinking. And I think for the public to approve a central wastewater plan, we're going to have to get the costs paid by the homeowners down substantially versus what they are now. So at any rate, we hope to have an application for funding done in the next couple of weeks, and we hope we'll get a successful conclusion on this. Dave, do you want to make any comment on it?
No, other than, we have to figure out who's going to be the lead on this project. We're hoping that the county can be the lead. The county can make the request for the funding, and then we can figure out the best way to engineer it going forward once the funding is in place. And so it's complicated because, Sanibel doesn't quite know what the amount of wastewater is coming from Captiva. We're not even quite sure what that's going to be in the future, given changes in the code. So there's a lot of loosey-goosey stuff still going on, but we want to get our place in line for this funding so that we can, when the pieces all come together, we'll have that funding available. So we'll do our best.
Is county writing it, helping to write it all?
Yes.
Yeah, the county is working with us. We met with the county via Zoom yesterday, and they're sort of leading us along the garden path here.
Hey, Jay, if we're going for funding, is there a solid number that we've come up with for the collection system?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is that? Do you know what that?
Right now, it's $20 million for the collection system and 14 million for the pipe through Sanibel. We've had those numbers for several months now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that engineering was done by Kimley Horn, quite a while back.
Okay, that's pretty solid. Okay.
Yeah.
Those are true engineering numbers, not something that I made up in my head.
And then what about Sanibel's to do the what they have to do the plant?
25 million.
25 million for their end? Okay.
They've asked for 25 million for the deep injection well. That'll be increased effluent.
Okay. So maybe 60 million for the whole project. Okay.
Figure 20, 20, and 25. Figure about 65.
65. All right. All right. Thank you.
That's great, Jay.
Well, let's just hope that this is successful. It would mean a lot to our community to finally be able to bring this one home.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, stormwater.
There's nothing really new here. We're online to get the 200 and some odd dollars for the stormwater study for the village of Captiva. And we've been told about a week ago that Commissioner Ruane has asked for a waiver, and our understanding is that's going to be granted to allow Kimley Horn to do that project. In other words, many of these projects have to be done by someone who also did not, by a firm that did not create the proposal initially and did not do the scope of the project. But that would be unfair to Kimley Horn. So we requested a waiver, and we're hoping that gets approved. Our understanding is that it will. And so therefore, hopefully we get the funding and we get Kimley Horn and Molly to do the study.
Well done.
Yeah.
Okay, iguanas.
All right. Alfredo's, he made a comment, he's seeing more than he'd like to see, but he's been, he gets, when he comes out, he gets 20 to 30 a day. And he did say a hot spot, he goes down to the new seawall at South Sea by the pool. And when he goes down there, he right away sees a bunch of iguanas sitting on the seawall. So that he likes to go to the hot spots because he knows he can get them. But then he's hitting all the properties on Captiva that he's allowed to go on. And so he did say that there's a company in Cape Coral, a charter company on a boat, and they're advertising iguana hunting. And they go along the canals and they look for iguanas in people's yards and shoot them. And people can hide, he gives people guns and they can shoot iguanas along these canals. And I says, I don't know how long that's gonna last. That doesn't sound right. But yeah, he's doing the best he can, and about 20 to 30 a day.
Hey, John, it's Tony.
Hey, Tony.
Hey, John, you got my note about there's quite a few of them, some big ones, around our sewer plant and in that tractor corral, so to speak, at our property, which is away from all the guests, so he could go in there and have a regular shooting gallery if he wants.
Okay. All right, Tony. I'll let him make sure he stops by.
And then
Yeah,
John,
because they're eating all of my pentas. They eat my new flowers.
Yeah, they like those. I think they really like hibiscus, and yeah, they eat a lot of new plantings. So yeah. All right, I'll let him know, Tony.
John,
Thanks, John. All right.
I just spent a bundle on all my landscaping around my properties, and they've already started eating a lot of them. And so when I found out that it was okay to shoot him, I have a kind of a cap, so a pellet gun. So, one of my very worthy employees, he's gotten, I think he said 18 so far.
Yeah.
But I said he had to shoot to kill, not to maim. That was the rule, right? That's my understanding.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, shoot to kill. Yeah, for sure. Well, that helps. I think with homeowners and property owners doing their own hunting, it definitely helps. Yeah. But he can go on all your properties, Sandy, around on the restaurants.
Yeah, he can go anywhere he wants to. He's fine. And then the Harbor House next to Green Flash, that's the one that we have that like 4-footer that hangs around there. And it kind of cuts along the waterway between Jensen's and Green Flash area. It just kind of goes, it's big.
Okay, all right. I'll remind him to stop by your properties.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Are we still, John, is George still killing a lot on Sunset Captiva?
Yes, yeah. He gets back by our treatment plant. He does he gets a lot of them back in there too. Yeah. Anything else on iguanas?
Okay, let's move on to Development Committee. And
Hi, Jay. I don't really have anything. I know there was some discussion online between Marguerite and Sandy about doing something in the fall regarding the iguanas, and merging it into a fundraiser. But I don't have any updates on that. So I don't know if either of them do, or if that's still something in the works.
right, well, I think it depends on our financial situation too, in terms of what we need to do with fundraising. So why don't we move on to Ken? You want to review the numbers for us quickly?
Sure, you can see in the handout, we've had a few small contributions. Actually, another one that came in after I did this update would have been an additional $5,000, so that does help. We have nothing extraordinary in expenses so far, with iguanas continuing to be our most expensive item. Cash on hand, we're in good shape. We can wait till the fall. We just need to start planning for what we want to do when people start coming back, whether it's something tied to iguanas, something tied to the Welcome Back Cruise, a general collection letter or contribution letter. As long as we have something in the works.
Yeah, well, I think the Welcome Back Cruise that's worked pretty well in the past, I think. What do we normally get on that? About 10,000, something like that?
Yes.
And then the letter writing campaign, that's usually pretty successful also.
Yeah, we've gotten anywhere from 30,000 to 50,000. We probably didn't get quite as much this time because of the Protect Captiva effort, and we really didn't push hard because of the need to get that initiative funded. But it's probably our best fundraising effort in terms of being able to just send something out and get people to write checks, explain and also a good way to communicate to the community, particularly people who can't attend the meetings, kind of what we're up to and what our initiatives are.
Right. Okay, well, as it stands now, I mean, we've probably got plenty of cash for everything that we plan to spend in the foreseeable future. Is that a fair assessment, Ken, do you think, or?
Yeah, well, based on what we have ahead, yes. If we have anything extraordinary come up, we've got some money to cover that, and we've got money in escrow to pay for the things that we've committed to. I think the one remaining study was Sanibel.
Yeah, that should be drawing to a close now. I haven't had an update on that. I think it was supposed to be done in June, finished in June.
And then the only other thing we have outstanding is the reimbursement request with the county for iguana eradication, which I sent a copy of that invoice to David after the last meeting. And I don't know if he's had any luck getting any comments from the commissioner.
In terms of getting that bill paid.
Yes.
Okay, do we have anything else to cover today, or did we get through all this?
Well, I have one thing. John, do you have Dan Stegman's telephone number?
Yes,
Because maybe we could see, they do a lot of the hosting of the Captiva Rod and Gun Club. Maybe we can see if he would express any interest in hosting it at his house, where we can get the different various people that are involved and John Dickey, et cetera. And maybe do something perhaps, if, you know, September when it's still slow. Not
Yeah.
during the Songwriters Festival, of course, but maybe toward the end of September or something like that. Maybe or pick a date that works out well when the island's quiet. And maybe there might be some funding that comes in. I wouldn't say it's going to raise a lot of money, but every little bit helps, you know. It'll save us
Okay.
money in the long run. And I think that's what I'm really looking more toward, that we won't have that kind of budget for iguanas in the future, hopefully.
yeah, yeah, no, that's a good idea. Yeah, I can reach out to him and, you know, I know he's done a couple events there, like for Carmen Marcino and that. So, yeah, I'll reach out to him and
Oh, good. And I know, Ken, you know
see
him
what he
well too. So between all of us, we can just kind of, because he might not even be aware that it's an issue with the iguanas. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I have no clue. But
Yeah.
He's very aware of iguanas. I think he likes to hunt them.
oh, good. Okay,
Yeah.
well then hey, that's even better yet. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Rod and Gun Club, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll reach out to him. See what he says. Yep. Thanks.
Just a question. Are people gonna go running around the island hunting iguanas? And how would this work practically in terms of private properties and things like that? And making sure nobody gets shot with them, whatever.
I don't know. We were gonna delegate that to you, Linda, to figure.
Yeah, I've hunted so much in my past.
Well, we'd have to set rules, and we'd probably want, you know, Carmine to be involved too, which he probably would, you know, it's one of those things. We'll explore it. Let's go there and then we'll.
Well, and you could also try to engage some of his deputies, et cetera, in the hunt, and that they could
Mhm.
win prizes in the hunt as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
Woohoo, woohoo.
Yeah, I don't think we want people just invite anybody to come to the island and walk around shooting iguanas.
No.
It would, with liability and everything,
Mhm.
we'd have to really, you know, come up with a good plan, but it is worth exploring for
It's worth
sure.
it. If it can be practical and safe, I think it's a grand idea. And I think there's other people who are not in the Rod and Gun Club, not me, who would enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great.
Because there's a lot of mangroves and stuff, so I would almost envision some of the flats fishermen being able to go along some of the mangrove areas and seeing it. That's kind of, but you know, because that's where they're hang out, where there's not very inhabited. So I don't know, but let's do an exploration mission.
It's
Yeah.
like
Right.
snook fishing, eh? Okay.
I
Sounds
just,
great.
I just did a check and there are no iguanas on this call, so.
We have carte blanche.
Yeah. No objection from the iguana wing of the Captiva. Okay, anybody else on the panel have any comments before we close up the meeting, or anything that we haven't discussed that we should?
Jay, was there, I heard from someone yesterday or late yesterday about discussing the Allison Hagerup parking lot, about it being relocated, or does anybody know anything about that?
Who's asking? Yes, I know some.
Yeah,
Who's
I
this?
got a call this morning about it and I didn't know anything about it. Do you know something about it, Linda?
So yes. So in the meeting yesterday, it was in the CEPD meeting, it was discussed as a possibility to obtain more parking spaces in the lot to obtain more money for the CEPD as an ongoing funding source. It is not clear if all of the commissioners were not in favor, although we did not vote. So it is being discussed, and I think that's about it right now.
What would there be any community downsides to doing this?
It was discussed very briefly and very high level. Different people have different concerns about it. It's at such a high level, I don't think it's available, it's ready for any public comment, or, well, you can comment if, sure, call up the CEPD or me and tell me what you think about it. But different commissioners had different views.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I would say, Linda, that if there's gonna be an increase in parking, and I'm not quite sure where you would put the parking.
It's trading with timbers.
Well, that raises all kinds of issues of how you get to the beach. You'd have to go through.
Yes, David. Yes, David. Yes, David. Okay.
Yeah, so all I'm suggesting is that this is an issue that involves a lot of people in the community and a lot of surrounding properties there,
Yes.
as well as whether or not we have infrastructure available, bathrooms, et cetera, for increased parking and what that would mean to the village. So I think before that decision gets made, and it should not just be a quote financial decision as to whether or not CEPD gets more money or the community gets more money, but I think it has to be a decision that that involves the community as to what issues get balanced and what's important to the community with respect to this. So I just don't think it's a dollar question.
I agree. I strongly agree, David.
Okay.
There were two questions from the audience, which I don't know if you'll be able to answer, Linda. Where will the parking lot be relocated, and why would we do this while we are suing Timbers?
This has not been discussed in detail, so these questions are sort of early. I would suggest those of you who are interested in this to attend the next CEPD meeting. If it's on the agenda, I would suggest that. The suggestion is to look at what's it called? The lot that, the lot behind.
The Shirley's lot.
Shirley, that was the name I couldn't remember. Shirley's lot. That's the suggestion.
So does the CEPD have sole discretion on this issue?
Who was asking?
Okay.
That's me, Ken.
Ken. I don't know that for a fact, but I believe the CEPD can buy property or trade property. I would assume that it is their decision, but I don't know that for sure. I do not know that. We're not at that level of this. It's like a conceptual, well, what about this idea?
Fair enough. I appreciate you.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I guess, in the decision making on it, you need to be aware of whose ground you're going to be walking across.
Yes. One would need easements and all of that if it was, or you have to buy property or whatever.
Right.
Okay, so if you're interested, I would suggest you go to the CEPD meeting if we're talking about it.
Linda, one other question just came in. Does CEPD own the lot now, or is it a county right of way?
So okay, it's complicated. I'm going to try to tell you as best I can based upon my memory. There is an agreement in perpetuity, I believe, and for that lot between CEPD and the county and maybe South Seas. And in perpetuity, CEPD is allowed to keep it. That's what I think. That is not, I've never read that. I've never seen any documents, and that was based upon me listening to it.
There was an agreement between Mariner Group and Lee County back, I believe in the 90s. There's an easement agreement, or they just gave up the property for some environmental reasons is what happened.
Okay.
And so that document, I actually have that document that I can share with the panel if you want to see it. But that's sort of, it was a three-way agreement with the Mariner Group back in the day.
The issue here is the CEPD believes that we are going to be doing more and more renourishments, and that the cost of those renourishments is going to be high. So the question is there anything the CEPD can do to reduce the costs to the taxpayer on Captiva while protecting the island? And so different possibilities are being looked at. There's issues, as you all know, with the Army Corps of Engineers. There's issues in that the limited access we have to the beaches for the public, which means that it's sort of hard to go ask people it's that the possibility of getting funding is limited based upon our limited access to those beaches too, you know? So it depends if if Captiva just says, fine, we'll just keep paying for it. I'm speaking here as my opinion. If we just say that, okay, we're not worried about how much we can come up with from CEPD and trying to do more funding, maybe it's not an issue, but these are big bills coming out of CEPD.
So I apologize, I'm wrong. It was 1989, and the agreement was between Mariner and CEPD. So CEPD does have sole discretion to waive that easement if they so choose. So it is I would say it's a very hot button topic that needs probably some community involvement, and maybe even some of us to get involved in it, because it could affect the community at large in a great way.
Right.
Linda, do you know is this initiative one that's started with CEPD, or has South Seas approached CEPD on this?
I do not know the real facts. I do not know.
Ken, there's a question you maybe answered that just came in. Is this parking lot included in the legal description of South Seas?
It is not. It is actually it's been carved out. If you look at the second submission of the zoning application, there is a number of survey pages, I believe 13. And that agreement, that's how I found the agreement in the first place, because that parcel is carved out of their property and is separate. So this easement agreement is a pretty important agreement that you know, if CEPD starts this conversation in a higher level, Linda, I think that the community needs to be aware of this.
I would agree with that, Ken. Okay? It shouldn't be a unilateral decision. And I think the community needs to be, nobody comes to our meetings. So for example, right? And there's some people on Zoom, so that I probably misspoke. But the panel meetings tend to have much more involvement. Ours are more about how much money do we have here, and how are we going to pay for this and all of that. That's what we tend to talk about. So it's not as interesting, but I would suggest you all attending the meetings and And I will ask if this topic is going to come up, that, no, I'm not gonna, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I understand the community concern. I am concerned as well. Okay?
Well, I think what you can ask, Linda, is that if this becomes an issue that CEPD is reviewing, that they make an effort to come to the panel to open it up to the community to have that kind of discussion, because the panel can facilitate that.
Well, I think what it will be is we will ask, judging from how, is we will ask the community to come to CEPD. Okay, I think that's what's going to happen.
Well, I think that's, I think.
I'm just, I'm not saying any comment about that's right or wrong. I'm just saying, I think that is what is going to happen.
Well, my understanding in discussing this with the chairman of CEPD, he's very open to having two-way conversation between CEPD and the panel. And I think that kind of two-way street is very valuable. We have that all the time with various organizations, and I think it would be good.
So I could be wrong, David. I'm not expressing my opinion as a commissioner. I'm trying to express what I think is the CEPD position, okay?
Okay, well, I think let's just see how it evolves and this turns into something.
And I'll make sure that the panel knows what's going on. Okay?
Jay, I'll send the easement agreement out to the panel.
Okay, I will commit to that.
Okay, any other comments from panel members or the audience? Well, I'll take a recommendation that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Okay?
Second.
All
Thanks.
in-
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
See
you.
you all next month. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
See you next
Bye.
month.
Call David Mintz.